On this episode of Maritime Insights from a deck officer, we're going to be looking at some new developments around the grounding of the cargo ship Thamesborg in the Northwest Passage within Canada. I have worked for Wagenborg as a deck officer on a similar cargo ship, and that's why I'm interested in keeping an eye on the developments and investigating what is happening and what will happen next. Now, I've already made 3 detailed videos about the grounding of the Thamesborg, so if you're interested in those, then have a look on my channel, or you can click on the video links in the description down below. Also, thank you so much for all your comments, your tips, your insights. I really appreciate it. And also a very warm welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome on board. Now, my goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. So if you like shipping news and shipping topics, then click that subscribe button right now. This is what I will cover in this video. First, a quick intro why and where the Thamesborg ran aground and the various Northwest Passage routes that you can take. I will also give you some updates on the latest developments from the past 7 days on the Thamesborg, and we will look at some new Coast Guard photos that they released. We'll also have a look at the current ice charts and tidal charts where the Thamesborg is located. But most importantly, we'll have a look at the Reefer ship, the Silver Copenhagen, that is currently loading the cargo via ship transfer from the Thamesborg onto the Silver Copenhagen. But the question is, can this ship do the job? Considering the cargo load of carbon blocks on the Thamesborg weigh 19,000 tons and the Silver Copenhagen can only take 4,000 tons in cargo. So we will calculate if 4,000 tons will be enough to lighten and refloat the Thamesborg. We will also have a quick look at the other ships that are helping with the rescue mission. Some are already there, and at least one more ship, an icebreaker / support vessel, the Botnica, is underway. Last but not least, we'll have a look at some costs involved in this rescue mission, and it is expensive. The intended route from the Thamesborg was to go from China, going through the Bering Sea, then through the Northwest Passage, which is all in Canadian territories, then via the east coast of Canada to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and then make their way to Bay Como, where they would deliver their carbon blocks, which are for a aluminum plant here, and the aluminum plant is called Alcoa. Unfortunately, on the 6th of September, the Thamesborg ran aground in Franklin Strait in the Northwest Passage, which is right over here. When we zoom in, there's Franklin Strait, and here are the Tasmania Islands, and then here there is a shallow of 20 meters, and this is where they ran aground. When they ran aground, they punctured a few ballast tanks, which means they are taking in water, but there was no fuel spill or oil spill whatsoever, and all the crew is safe. As you can see on the chart over here, this is where the Thamesborg ran aground, and you can see the depth contour lines going from 100 to 50 to 20. So basically this is an underwater pinnacle, and the same here, it goes from 100 meters to 34 meters. So it's also an underwater pinnacle. And you can see these pinnacles here are above water, so these are all rocks that are visible. So just east of where the Thamesborg ran aground, I looked at the satellite image of all the rocks in that area, and you can see it's clearly rocks and not sand. If the Thamesborg ran aground on sand, then it would have probably also not punctured its ballast tanks, but they now punctured them because they went full speed aground on these rocks. Here you can see some different routes you can take through the Northwest Passage depending on levels of ice, and in this case there was hardly any ice because July, August, September, you can navigate these waters, maybe a little bit further into October. So the Thamesborg, they took route number 5, almost, not exactly, but pretty much they took route number 5, with the exception that they actually took a shortcut here through the icebreaker channel and not go around, where it's also very shallow. And then they made their way up to Franklin Strait, and right over here is where they ran aground. On the Canadian Coast Guard website, you can follow the live operations of active incidents. And in this case, we are following the MV Thamesborg grounding in the Franklin Strait, Nunavut. And here are some photos, some new photos that became available. There was one here where you can see the ship, and it is listing to starboard a little bit, as you can see. And it's a little foggy on that day. Let's see what else kind of photos they have here. Here you can see another photo of the Thamesborg. And oh look, I noticed, so there's 3 balls here in the mast. That means that the vessel is aground. You don't want to hoist those day signals in the mast, but it means that the vessel is aground and that the ship cannot freely move. Now at night, let me think, you would have to put 2 all-around red lights on that will indicate that you are aground and you cannot freely move. Here is another photo of the Thamesborg, and yeah, you can clearly see that it is listing to starboard. Let's see what other pictures there are. Here is another picture. That was actually cool. You can see one of the Coast Guard vessels here in the distance that are assisting. Here is the latest ice chart from the 22nd of September. That was yesterday, and you can see it's all blue, meaning there is hardly any ice reported. When it's green, then there's a little more. When it's yellow, there's even more. But it looks like there is still no ice. And then Ballard Strait, which is the closest tidal station that I could find by Franklin Strait, you can see here the tidal wave. So basically here it has it's 2 meters, and it's at the lowest point it's half a meter. So it has a tidal change of about 1.5 meters. And here you can see all the times. So at the highest point, that is obviously the best. Those are the best times to refloat the ship. Since my last video on the Thamesborg, I've been looking on Vessel Finder to see if there are any ships going into the direction of the Thamesborg, such as cargo ships or icebreakers or anything going into that direction. And then I saw on the 17th of September, I saw a red dot coming alongside on the port side aft ship of the Thamesborg, and red means it's a search and rescue, which is possibly a Coast Guard vessel that came alongside. So it means that it is probably the deepest and the safest to come alongside on port side aft. They probably brought some personnel or maybe some equipment, and maybe they also checked the draft in this area and to just make sure that it is safe for another ship possibly to come alongside here by the Thamesborg. Then I did some more research. I saw, I was looking for cargo ships and stuff that were going into Baffin Sea to the Northwest Passage, and I saw the Silver Copenhagen, and they had a destination with GPS location put in there, and they made a stop here in Nuuk, Greenland, and that's also where the Botnica is going as well, that is coming to the rescue, but they were there as well, and then they made their way to the Thamesborg. Then to my surprise today, I looked on marine traffic and I saw the Thamesborg right there, and right next to it is the Silver Copenhagen, which is a reefer ship. So we're gonna have a look at some more details and what they are up to. The Silver Copenhagen belongs to Fjord Shipping, so I looked at their fleet and then I found out that this ship is a reefer. It was built in 1998. It has a gross tonnage of 3,817 tons and a dead weight of 4,230 tons. The dead weight is how much a ship can safely carry, but you have to subtract a few other weights from this weight, such as the fuel, fresh water, ballast, maybe crew. So this is not the actual number of the cargo capacity it can take. It can probably take, let's say, 3,500 tons. We'll go with that number, and then you can see the length overall is 97 meters and 70 centimeters. Now, if they can carry safely in cargo 3,500 tons, and the Thamesborg has 19,000 tons cargo on board, it will not all fit on here. So will it be enough to lighten the ship by 3,500 tons so that it can refloat? Well, we can actually make a calculation and see if that would be enough. So I looked up some more information about the cargo capacity of the Thamesborg, and then you can see here that it has a DWCC, a deadweight cargo capacity of 19,500. Then if you scroll down, you will see that it says DWCC summer. You can take 19,500. Now, what does it mean, summer? Well, here is a chart, and you can see that there are summer zones, there's a tropical zone, and there's another summer zone, and then everything else is winter zone. That means you can imagine that in the winter there is more wind and more waves. So then in those areas you are not allowed to take the full capacity. You need to take less cargo in those areas. So that means if you go into this area, you cannot take your full summer zone dead weight. You have to take less. Meaning that if you go back to the numbers of 19,500, let's subtract 500 tons from this, and the Thamesborg can take 19,000 tons. The other important thing to note is that the Thamesborg has a TPC SSW of 34.2 metric tons per centimeter. What does that mean? Basically, TPC stands for ton per centimeter, and SSW stands for summer salt water, meaning that if you add 34.2 metric tons to the ship, the Thamesborg will increase its draft by 1 centimeter, so it will sink by 1 centimeter. Now, if you take the 34.2 out, obviously the ship will go up and it will decrease its draft by 1 centimeter. Knowing this, and knowing that the Reefer can take 3,500 tons, then we can make a little calculation of 3,500 divided by the 34.2, which is 102.3 centimeters. So let's say 103 centimeters. So if they load 3,500 tons of cargo onto the Reefer ship, then the ship, the Thamesborg, should come up by about 103 centimeters. The question remains if this will be enough cargo to take out to get it refloated. Maybe they'll have to take that Reefer ship to a port somewhere and have it offloaded, come back empty, and then load it again with some more cargo. I don't know. I don't have those full details, but basically this is their plan to take some cargo off to refloat the Thamesborg. When I was looking at the stowage plan of the Thamesborg, I found these drawings over here, and then here you can clearly see the cargo hold here, and here the yellow spaces are void spaces. This is the engine room here in the aft ship, and then you have the bow over here with a stern thruster, and in the middle here you have fuel. It says here, see, it says fuel. So they have fuel in this black area. And then you can see the ballast tanks are here in the bottom. And one or maybe two, I don't know how many, but a couple of ballast tanks have taken on water. So they are punctured, and that is where the ship is taking in water. Here is a photo of the Thamesborg, and you can see it is here loading or unloading, but it's using its own 4 cranes for the loading and unloading of the cargo. Now, I've had a look at the Silver Copenhagen. It also has 2 cranes, but I don't think they will be sufficiently high enough to get the cargo out of the Thamesborg. So I suspect that they are going to be using the cranes of the Thamesborg itself. Actually, they are doing this right now as we speak. They are offloading the cargo right now. Let's have a look at the ships that are currently by the Thamesborg. We have one Coast Guard vessel here. We have one Coast Guard vessel here. Then we have the Thamesborg over here, and right next to it the Silver Copenhagen. And here we have the Beverly M1, which is a tug, and it arrived at Tasmania Island yesterday, September 22nd. Now, the other ship that is on its way, I reported on that in the last video, is the Botnica, and it's probably it's gonna arrive on September 26th on Friday. It's coming from Germany. It's probably about south here of Iceland, and it will go to Nuuk, Greenland first, maybe to refuel again, maybe also for personnel and equipment, and then make its way to the Thamesborg. To give you an idea about the cost of just one ship, for example the Botnica, which is an icebreaker / support vessel, we can have a look at its fuel consumption. So the fuel consumption of the main engines at maximum draft is 50 tons of marine diesel oil MDO per day at full power, 25 tons at a service speed of 12 knots, and 10 to 15 tons during dynamic positioning, and 4 tons at port. Meaning I've been checking the speed of the Botnica and it's doing about the service speed of 12 knots. So then we need to have a look at the fuel prices for MDO. And so we have the bunker prices worldwide. This was from today. And in Rotterdam, you would have to pay $445 for 1 ton. So let's do 445 times 25 tons per day equals $11,125 per day just in fuel. And is about a 10-day trip from Germany to Greenland. So times 10 is $111,250 just in fuel. Now I know that these ships, their daily operating cost is probably around the $30,000, if not more, per day. So that just gives you an indication, and that is just one ship. Then there's also the Reefer ship going there, there's a tugboat going there. I'm sure they will have to pay for the Coast Guard as well. So yeah, it is an expensive rescue mission. I'm going to keep a close eye on the Thamesborg, and I will report back on my channel with further updates. So if you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so that I can reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. And if you have any questions or info in regards to the Thamesborg, then please leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, then have a look at this video right over here.